Greetings again. It's your friendly assistant principal, Miss Wilson, coming to you again with more RTI news you can use. Today, we're going to be talking about clearing up the fog, the ins and outs of completing the fogs. As we prepare for more RTI meetings, as we've just finished a set of RTI meetings, I felt it necessary to come back and touch bases with you guys to kind of help you dispel the myths about the fog. So the first thing is, what is a fog? A fog is just simply an acronym as we use a lot in education. It just simply means that it is a form and a log combined, and so it just became a fog. And the fog is used to document any general education student who is in need of some RTI interventions or who just may be struggling with some Tier 1 interventions or instruction in the classroom setting. So a FOG is not to be used for any special education students or any students who are already identified under 504. So when should I do a FOG for students when it relates to academics? If you have a student in your general education classroom who is struggling without any intense assistance, if you're having to spend multiple times repeating information or clarifying or helping or assisting a student, you may need to just at least put in that Tier 1 fog so that we can start to document some of those struggles. Also, if a student has failed multiple campus or district assessments, that's typically a red flag that there are some struggles going on. If a student is reading 2 or more grade levels behind, that is absolutely a reason to do a fog. If a student is Tier 2 or Tier 3 in iStation and they're not growing, they're staying stagnant or they're going down in their points each month, that is definitely a reason to put in the fog. But ultimately, guys, if you just use your professional judgment, if there's a gut feeling that you have that you believe there may be some other issues with the student, you can always put in a Tier 1 fog and start to document those conversations and concerns. When should I do a fog for behavior? If you have a student in your general education classroom who is struggling with your regular instruction, your regular classroom procedures and expectations without any intense or frequent interventions, you may want to go ahead and do a FOG 1 for behavior. If a student has gotten 2 or more classroom referrals in a 9-week period, that means that their behavior really is causing some challenges within the classroom setting, or they may be struggling with some expectations. I would absolutely suggest putting in a Tier 1 FOG for behavior. If a student has gotten an office referral, usually that means that they've done something pretty substantial to get to the office referral place. So we definitely want to just go ahead and put a fog in and start documenting some of the things that we're doing for that student. Also, if the student is demonstrating some emotional needs that may require some assistance beyond the scope of the classroom teacher. So I know as classroom teachers, we are counselors and nurses and doctors and fill-in moms and things like that. But if you have a student that requires that level of care from you on a very consistent basis, I would suggest putting in that Tier 1 behavior fog so that we can see if there's other things that may be needed. And ultimately, here as well, your professional judgment always serves as a great buffer. We want you to be able to utilize your professional judgment if you believe that there's just something not quite right with the student and we need to do some other interventions. We want to be able to do that as well. Where are the fogs located? We know here in LISD, our fogs are located in Aware. So you go to Aware. How do you input the fog? You would search by student name. This image here should give you kind of a good look at what that looks like. We search for the student name, and then you'll be able to put that information in. Once you click on the student name, you click on Forms, and that will allow you to either see if there's already forms in for the student, or it will give you access to be able to put the form in. If they don't have anything, then you click Add Form. When you add the form, it's going to pull up several forms that you have access to input. And that's RTI forms and all other kinds of forms that are available for the teacher to use. There is also a year indicator right here. If you want to see if a student has already had forms in previously, if you click this button, there's going to be a drop down that comes there, and you can click the previous school years to see if there was ever anything inputted on the student. All fogs must have the date entered, or they will not save from year to year. We've learned this the hard way, but the district has gone in and put this specific information here that says you must enter a date or the form will not save. I can tell you that we've still had a couple forms that don't have this date here. And I would hate for you guys to do all that work and documenting all of your interventions and they not save from year to year. So make sure that you do put the date that you start that fog in there. It doesn't matter what that date is. We just have to make sure there's one there. Also, if the student has a behavior fog and they're in academics, you want to make sure we click that button there so that we know that there may be more than one fog. And then the fog also gives student information, which is usually self-populated, so you don't have to put anything there. Inputting a Tier 1 fog on a student does not mean that you have to have a meeting on them. You may not ever have to have a meeting on a student that's in Tier 1 or that you put a Tier 1 fog in for. The Tier 1 fog just simply says, this student is having some struggles, I'm a little bit concerned, and I want to keep a watchful eye on them. Alrighty. And then, if Tier 1 instruction is not being successful for the student, that you've documented the things that you've done on their Tier 1 fog, and the student is still in need of further assistance, at that time, a Tier 2 meeting must be scheduled. We have a couple of those dates already planned on our school year and our calendar. I referenced those in our previous video. You can go back to that. But also, if there's a pressing need, something comes up and we really need to take a look at a student, we can always do an impromptu meeting and get a committee together to do that, even if it's not on the calendar. But prior to coming to the Tier 2 meeting, please make sure that you have inputted that Tier 2 fog and that you have any relevant information and data that needs to be there, and that you have all of the things that you need, all that data that we discussed previously with regard to what to bring to the meeting. You don't have to worry about filling in the meeting minutes or the goals because the RTI coordinator will fill in that information during the meeting. But it's essential for the meeting purposes that that fog already be uploaded. I hope that this clears up the fog regarding fogs for you guys. And should you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Of course, you can reach me at my email address, wilsonl@lisd.net. You can stop me in the hallway. You can give me a phone call, whatever you need to do to help make sure that you feel comfortable with what is taking place. Have a great day, guys.